It's like the 5 days that every man should have throughout the month. And it's a mental health day, just to check in with your mental health in general. I love that one, just like a catch-all. It's
Everybody
a
needs
rest
that.
day.
Yeah.
It's like a rest day where you rest on everything, spiritual rest, physical rest, things like that. There's an inner child day where you just let your inner child go off and play. And there's a planning day where it's just like financial planning, life goals,
Yeah.
things like that. I just try to use the fifth day for anything, anything that if there's a fifth Sunday in the month, just like try to use that for anything, if I need to do more planning, if I need to rest more, whatever it might be. But I like that. I like having some structure to how I approach my month because like you're busy. You just hit 10K on Insta. It's
Yeah, man.
huge
Yeah, man.
huge deal, but
For
it's like
real.
you get busy.
Yeah, it's
I can't
life, man.
believe that, bro. Congratulations.
Hey,
I'm
thanks,
gonna
man.
cheers to that here in
Thank
this
you, man.
public forum.
Thank you, man. Yes,
To
yes,
build a
yes.
following of 10,000 people, bro, is unbelievable.
Yeah. I honestly, I mean, it was one of my goals for 2025, but to actually see it happen is like, wow, like it's crazy. Like, I don't know how I feel about it, man. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I wasn't really necessarily, I guess, kind of chasing it. I mean, I was like, I wanted it to happen, even, like to get that type of following, but like, Ash, I'm not really, trying to like have that be, the personality, I guess. I don't know if I'm making sense, you know?
Yeah, I think I get where you're coming from. I
Yeah.
mean, so like, what do you think is resonating most with your following? I mean, to get to 10K is like 10,000 people is a lot of people, bro. Like to reach that many
It is a lot.
people
It is a
and
lot.
to have that many
It is a lot.
people
Yeah.
follow your content, like what do you think is resonating? Because the project we're working on, it's like to 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 borrow that, to learn from you, you know me, like try to come at it with humility. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you think's resonating, bro? Like what's landing with people?
I think it's like, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and, I think it's the way that I like authentically just, show myself on there and just kind of just be unfiltered. And that's kind of the way that I want to be. I don't want to, beat around the bush and dress things up and, kind of just beat around like an idea. I like being able to just say things the way it is. I took an ethics class a couple semesters ago. And one of the things I learned is this lady wrote an article about how to define if a person has good judgment is for that person to be able to call things out for the way it is. And
Mm.
it's like, and for some reason that stuck with me, because like for someone to be like just to call things out for the way it is and not really just beat around the bush, it's like, I don't know, it just stuck with me, like having that being, it's not really necessarily the definition of judgment, but or a good judgment, but to have just to have, it's in the back of my head. It's just like, okay, like being able to just say things straight up, and don't beat around the bush.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I hear you say that, one thing that resonates with me is like the idea of doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing.
So yeah, yeah,
And for a while, like especially prior to recovery,
all
and
right,
even like every single day, honestly, it's like doing the wrong thing becomes clearer and clearer. Like, you know, simple things, bro. Like cheating in a relationship, the wrong thing, right? Like clearly the wrong thing. Or like anything, like stealing, being unkind, yelling, all the anger,
yeah,
like angry outbursts, like all those examples of doing the wrong thing. Doing the right thing is more subjective. And it's like, what is the right thing for Dennis today, right now, in 2025? And what I think can be challenging, especially in relationships, is like one person can be doing the right thing for them and another person can be doing the right thing for them, and they just might not be compatible. And I think that can
Right.
make communication really challenging between people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that when two people can come together with patience and humility and honesty and say, this is what I think the right thing is for me, and I hear you saying that this is what the right thing is for you. So how can we compromise around this? And it's like, I just, what you said, just that came up. That resonates with me.
Yeah, communication or anything
Yeah.
in like any form of any type of relationship or just in general, communication and having to be able to come forth with that, humility, like you were saying, and like the communication and honesty, like it's big. It plays a huge part in just relationships with anybody, with friends, a partner, family. And some people like
Yeah.
even when it's like it could be like a bad, not really necessarily bad, but it could be like not an easy thing to communicate. Like someone's gonna get hurt, whether regardless of what, the situation or the conversation that needs to be had is. And I think that's the hard part when like some people want to avoid the communication and, that honesty to avoid hurting another person or to avoid themselves getting hurt. But I think communication
Yeah.
is it's the foundation for everything, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying really resonates because I'm of the opinion that there are some times when it's unavoidable to do at least a little bit of harm to somebody. I think a great example that people can relate to is breakups in relationships,
Yeah.
especially when somebody initiates a breakup with another person. Like, naturally, the person on the receiving end of that is going to be harmed. I think the
Oh yeah.
question that someone can ask themselves, though, is, am I doing as little harm as possible given the situation? And I do think that's an area in relationships where somebody can take inventory and navigate that in their own way. In other words, it comes back to what we were just talking about, like being clear, being direct, being honest. And I think we can all relate to the situation where like a breakup kind of drags on, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're like kind of broken up, kind of not broken up for like two
Yeah.
years. And it's
Yeah.
like, and
I
that's
think
doing,
we're
I think, yeah.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that's doing accidentally doing harm, you know? I mean, maybe not accidentally, but it's doing harm, you know? And, to be able to come to the table with a very clear understanding of what I want and need and to be able to communicate that person to on the other end is vital. And I think it emphasizes something that's just so important to me in relationships and life in general, but in relationships especially is it has to start with me. I have to keep the focus on myself because how can I navigate a situation with another person if I don't know what I want and need? I don't express what I want and need,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's why, like, it's one of the things we're working on with the When Men Are Silent project is just to give men a space where they can practice sharing openly. You know, like, I had this conversation today of a lot of men grew up in households where the don't talk rule applied. In other words, it wasn't safe to share. So if I'm a child and I start sharing about, that I'm feeling insecure because there was a loud noise outside, and a parent turns to me and tells me all the reasons why I shouldn't feel that way, that doesn't empower me as a child to talk or share my feelings.
Yeah.
And we realize that there are a lot of individuals, men included, that they don't have that overcoming of the don't talk rule in their lives yet. And I'm of the opinion that by just offering the space for men to share openly, uninterrupted, without any feedback or any commentary on their share, that's empowering in its own light, regardless of the content. It's it's kind of like if you're auditioning for a play and you're an actor, it doesn't matter what script you read. We just want you to read something because we want to see how you do it. And that's what we want. We just want you to share for its own sake. You know,
Yeah,
like we just want you to break that don't talk rule. So
yeah.
it's important.
I'm glad you brought up When Men Are Silent because I didn't realize I didn't even do the intro for this, for the podcast, man.
Well, that's how we do it, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
Let
no,
me
I'm
stop.
glad I
I'm
started
about to mute
recording this.
myself.
Yeah, the conversation's been
Yeah.
good. And nah, just to start it off, man. Welcome in everybody, family and friends, supporters, lovers, haters. You're tapping into the Sober and Unbothered podcast. I got in here Dennis from When Men Are Silent, and he's kind of touched on it a little bit, man. But what's up, bro? Like, just tell me more. Speak more about. You had the event today, didn't you?
Yeah, it's amazing, bro.
Yeah,
Well, first of all, thank you. I mean, it's worth saying that this connection just started on Instagram
right, man.
and just started up. I think I reached out just because I was inspired by the content that you were creating. And when we talked, I mentioned this, but it's worth saying that you have an art and a skill of making mental health cool and accessible to men, to young men. And I really appreciate that, bro. And what it's doing for the community is powerful. And so that's just a expression of gratitude for that. And yeah, so we had our first event today.
Yeah,
Um,
bro. Tell me about it.
man, so let me just say that I'll talk a little bit more about When Men Are Silent as a whole in a minute, but today we had our first When Men Are Silent community meditation gathering. And so one of the background pieces of the project, and this is a cornerstone of the project, is that we use silent meditation practices as a demonstration for the mental health challenges that men face for the
Mm,
sake of community healing. And it sounds counterintuitive at first. So you're telling me that the problem is that men are not speaking out about their mental health, so you're going to go out into the community and be silent? It doesn't really resonate. Where we're coming from with the project, and when I brainstormed this idea for WMAS, the idea is that we live in a very busy, loud world filled with movement. And that came to light today. I'll paint that picture. We live in a busy, loud world with a lot of movement. And we can use silence as a protest. We can use silence as a demonstration in a busy city of Baltimore on the weekend. And we use these community meditation gatherings as a way to bring men, but all beings, anybody who supports men's mental health is welcome to join and meditate with us in a very public setting. And the idea is that we're in the busiest parts of the city so that when people are walking by, they're drawn to the silence. And when they're drawn to the silence, they're met with our meditating bodies and some very simple statistics or information about men's mental health. So we had our first event today. We were on the Broadway Pier in Fells Point, which is a historic neighborhood in the city of Baltimore. And it was exactly how I hoped it would went, to be honest.
really?
So
That's good,
we
bro.
set up, yeah, it was amazing. And it's just amazing how the word spreads about something. So,
Mm,
it's Instagram, it's word of mouth, it's friends, it's everybody in the community just getting the word out. And what we did today is we positioned ourselves on the Broadway Pier in Fells Point in Baltimore, which is a busy area. And we were between the corner of a busy restaurant, and we picked 12 o'clock because Ravens start at 1. So we
Oh,
want you to see us on
yeah,
the way to the game.
right.
We want you to see us on the way to the game. And so right across the street was a vintage market. So like we're right there. We're right in the heart of it. And we set up a placard and it'll be shared on our Instagram. We set up a sign with a very simple men's mental health statistic. And the men's mental health statistic is that men, or to be accurate with the literature, males, but we simplify that to men, but we know that that's not at all encompassing. But men represent 50% of the population, but 80% of the deaths by suicide. And so we had people a group of about 10 or 12, mostly men, but not all men. We had a couple women that joined us as well. And we set up meditation cushions around this sign in the community. And we just sat for about 40 minutes with some fellowship time before and after for people to be able to get to know each other.
All right.
But we just sat in silence. And there's two favorite stories that I have from the day. Three favorite stories. The first favorite story is just the love and the appreciation and the men and their vulnerability. It was amazing, bro. Like, these are people I'd never met. I met some, but there are people I was meeting for the first time. And just like the instant connection that was felt around this unitary issue of men's mental health awareness for community healing was powerful. Two other powerful moments from the day. A first powerful moment is we're meditating on a pier. So we're surrounded by water on three sides, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a restaurant on the corner. And there's a group of six guys, six young men. They're probably between the ages of 21 and 25, right? Six young men. A group of them go into the restaurant, presumably to take shots or whatever. One of the meditators overheard,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
and shared
Yeah.
this story. So these
Yeah.
young men go into the restaurant, they come out, and I open my eyes during the meditation because I'm trying to keep the space safe. So I'm
Right.
angling myself so that I can see everything that's going on for the folks around me. I feel like that's my responsibility as an organizer. I open my eyes and these guys are talking and they're looking at the sign that says men represent 50% of the population, but 80% of the deaths by suicide. They're like staring at it. And then two of the young men speak up and they say, hey guys, like, let's move over there. They're trying to meditate. And if there's two things that I could say to that group of young men right now, this is what I would say. The first thing I would say is your respect for our project is so appreciated that these young men would acknowledge that we're meditating in solidarity of this issue is exactly what I was hoping that the project would accomplish. And for that to be the experience was so appreciated and so welcome. And the second thing I would say is instead of walking over there, walk over to us. Come be with us. Our meditation isn't a practice of needing silence. You're part of our practice. The whole world is part of our practice. That you are going into the restaurant and I hear you is part of my practice. That I hear you talk about the project's part of it. That I see you walk, it's all part of it. And I want you to be part of my practice. I want you to come interact with the sign, the literature on the ground, things like that. And so it's this two part. One is an expression of gratitude for the respect that those young men showed. And the second is an invitation. You are just as welcomed. And if you want to sit for 5 minutes before the Ravens game, bro, and then go about your day, go about your day. But I
Yeah.
just want you to know that this space is open to you too, because you might be going through something. And I don't even know, and I don't have to know, but you might be going through something. And I just want you to know that the community's got you, that there's a space for you, and that space is right here. And that was something that really resonated with me from the day. The second thing that really resonated with me from the day was we had just finished our meditation practice, and there's a group of two people that came over, and we had just all opened our eyes, and there's somebody on the ground like picking up a flyer, taking a picture of the flyer, taking a picture of the sign. And just to come out of that meditation practice and be met with somebody directly interacting with the content, I just smiled. And then they looked over at me and I gave them a bow. And it was just a wholesome moment. And in that moment, I felt like the project really mattered to the city of Baltimore. I felt like somebody really benefited from that. 2 hours later, they shoot me a message on Instagram. I just want to let you know the safety that you're providing for people, that WIMS is providing for people in Baltimore to meditate and bring awareness to men's mental health. really matters to me. So I wished them a thank you. I said, come sit with us next time. And they said, well, actually, I live in Connecticut. So I was
Yeah.
like, man, they don't even live in Baltimore, but we'll
Yeah.
get the next one.
Yeah,
But
man.
it was the whole experience, you know, like the whole experience was just powerful. And we have our next one next week. We're doing this every Sunday in October
Okay.
to really build momentum for the project. So that's how it went, bro. I appreciate you asking. It was a really powerful day. Really
Yeah, man.
powerful day.
Yeah, man. That's good to hear, bro. I mean, I really love like what you got going on because mental health and especially like men's mental health, it's something that's like overlooked and not talked about enough. And people tend to, in this society, people tend to look at men and the mental health and just us in general and just kind of just like disregard us and say that we don't matter, we're men, we should be able to build houses and, not speak up. And, it's like we're kind of like stepped on, spit on, and people don't really want to, you know, care, and it's crazy because like I took a genders communication class like the first time when I dropped out the first time before I went back to school. I took a genders communications class, and I was one of the two guys in the class, and the rest was just like were women. And the things that were talked about in that class, like I feel like the women were just like kind of like ganging up on us, but that's that's to be expected, being the only the two guys in there. But like the
Yeah.
conversations that were had in there about like how society looks at men and how what's expected of us and how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to move, and like what's expected of men and what's expected of women, and how men are supposed to act and how women are supposed to act. And it was just crazy and like to think that that's really how society normalizes what's going on. We're looked at men are looked at as, oh, like you used to go to war, like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to build a house. You're supposed to be able to protect. You're not supposed you can't speak up. You can't cry. Like, and one of the things that like, and this whole class made me think like, wow, like it really opened my eyes to like, wow, it's really how like society thinks, and like we talked about in the class that like if a woman ran into the classroom right now and started bawling her eyes out, crying, saying she's scared, everybody in the class would be like, oh my god, are you okay? Are you okay? But if a dude came in there and was crying, freaking out, and scared, everybody would be like, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, go outside and cry. And it's like we're so expected to think that that's our first thought is if a dude's crying, it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, go cry in private, go cry in silence. Like, don't don't interrupt what we got going on because you're kind of messing up the vibe. And then it's like it's crazy that that's what society has come to, bro. And like that's why I really like what you got going on because society kind of beats us up and like chews us up and spits us out, man. And it's like mental health and men's mental health in general is just it's way overlooked. And I really love what you got going on, bro. So like I kind of want to know
Yeah.
like what made you like want to start doing it. I know you like do the meditation and I know you're really big into spirituality, but like what made you want to actually start doing these events and like actually speaking out more about it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love to speak on that. I can't help myself but to comment on something that you shared. And I mean, it's two parts. The first part is the barriers that men face.
Yeah.
And the second part is there's like a latent part there with gender in general. And for me, we know that men are more likely to, you know, die by suicide than women are. And we know that men are less likely to seek, healthcare for their mental health. And so it's important that we bear the responsibility of building a culture where men feel safe to speak out about their mental health. And so the community has to ask itself, how can we build that culture? And it's important to the mission of WIMS because the project is focused on men's mental health. And it's only focused on men's mental health for the sake of community healing. In other words, while men's mental health is important in its own right, it's also the lived experience of many people that when men's mental health is not tended to, non-men bear the brunt of that. And the anecdote that I always use is that I would imagine, this is not my lived experience, I can only speak to it. I can imagine that for folks that are not men, they have been on the receiving end of a man's anger as the result of not being in touch with their emotions or having strategies to cope with their mental health challenges. And so then that creates unsafe spaces. And so WMAS, in my vision, wants to do this work for men's mental health with the ultimate outcome of making spaces safer for everybody. And it's like, how do we get to that point? Well, we're not alone. There are people working on this, like the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We have a great chapter, NAMI Metro Baltimore, that does this work. And I mean, there's a few places we can start, bro. The first place we can start is this, like having conversations.
Yeah.
And it's just as easy as just like checking in. Like, I don't know, like if I'm hanging out with one of my guys on a weekend, it's like, hey, bro, just want to check in. I know it's been hard at work. Like, how's your mental health? How are you doing? And maybe the first time they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they need to feel some safety built in the relationship. But that I can show up and offer that is what I can control. And I think that's important. And the next thing that I think can be normalized is the resource sharing. There are a lot of mental health support services in our communities. Everything from hotlines like the National Suicide Prevention Hotline 988 to local organizations that are doing coalition work and they host community events, mental health awareness walks, all kinds of programs, support programs even. And then of course psychotherapy, counseling, things like that. Like we can connect the guys in our lives to those resources. And if I learn that a man in my life is struggling with something that's above me, maybe that's the time to say, hey, I care about you and I care about you so much that I want to share something with you that helped me. And I had a really difficult time working through some of these thoughts, especially the anxiety piece, because my mind just wasn't there. I didn't have the tools. And you know what helped me, bro? A professional. Think about this. Think about how if you were trying to get stronger, you would get a personal trainer. If you were trying to be a better basketball player, better baseball player, better football player, you'd get a coach. So if you're trying to tend better to your mental health, there's someone to help coach you with that too, and it's a therapist. And, you know, I think the last thing, and this is really what we're trying to create with WMAS, is just making spaces that are safe, bro. Like, it can be, I feel a lot of safety in this conversation just from the whole energy of it and encouraging environments where men can open up. And there are some spaces where traditionally men are allowed to express themselves. A couple of things that come to mind. The gym, pretty safe space for men to at least express themselves physically. A lot of vulnerable conversations happen through sports. Barbershops have this reputation.
Yeah.
You know, let's start, well, right? Like, let's start with the spaces that already have that safety and just build and just keep building. And then maybe I meet somebody at the barbershop and we talk outside the barbershop, or I meet somebody at the gym, we talk outside the gym, and then we spread that. Or we create programs for people to safely talk about it. And that's the heart and soul of what we're trying to create. So that's, I had to get that off because it was just important to me.
Yeah.
Um, but there's like a whole topic of what I can say about how when men are silent is about men, but we know that certain groups of men are disproportionately impacted by mental health. For example, we know that when you look at men, in particular white men versus their white women counterparts, they're about 3.86 times more likely, about 4 times more likely to die by suicide. If you look at black men versus black women, they're 5 times more likely to die by suicide, which speaks to racial and ethnic difference. Similarly, we know that when I learned this one blew my mind. If you look at the Trevor Project survey of trans youth, um, actually, it's the National Institute of Health, I think, whatever it might be. If you look at a survey of trans youth and you ask what percentage of you report feeling suicidal, 86%, bro.
Damn.
86% of trans youth reported feeling suicidal, which is wild.
Damn.
86%, bro.
That's almost whole, all of it.
That's all, that's almost everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like we can do things about that that are not necessarily mental health related, but gender affirming healthcare is linked to fewer suicides in adolescents, things like that. So we can work on these issues. We just have to bring our attention to groups that are disproportionately affected as well. So it starts with men, but men's not a monolith. We also want to create safety for all men, for trans men, for black men, for immigrant men, everybody. That's the goal. And somebody said to me recently that really resonated. They said, if you're going to do community work, you better be about your whole community. You better not
Oh
just pick
yeah.
and choose which community you're
Facts.
about.
Facts.
And in the city of Baltimore, there's a lot of people that would benefit from this. And so that's the goal. But I had to get that off as well because now, but now to your original question, bro, where did WMAS start? So um so my personal story is that I grew up in a house that was pretty much riddled with mental illness, alcoholism, and substance use disorders. So, not to tell my parents' whole story, but it included opioid addiction at its height, it included severe mental illness, and it included alcoholism. And growing up in a household where that is present had a had a prominent impact on my mental health for sure.
Yeah, dude, I
And I
bet.
didn't even know it, bro, until later.
Hmm.
Honestly, until I became a young man and went off to college, leaving home, all those things, being on my own, is when I was really confronted with my own mental health challenges. And my mental health challenges revolved around feelings of being out of control, of perfectionism, of all of those felt senses and behaviors that come from growing up in a very unpredictable household with drugs in the house, alcohol in the house, etc. And that had an impact on me. And this chronic feeling of being out of control manifested as anxiety, as severe anxiety, and the trauma of growing up in that environment. And I have stories for days that are available to men if they ever want to reach out. But I think the purpose of it is that I would go on to develop an unhealthy relationship to alcohol. I would go on to develop an unhealthy relationship with other drugs. I would go on to develop an unhealthy relationship with anything that would take the edge off of feeling out of control. And this came to a head when I was about 25, and I had been acting out. I'd been causing harm as a result of my drinking, been causing harm to the people around me that I loved, and realized that I really needed to make a change. And I stopped drinking on July 7th, 2017. But my story doesn't end with stopping drinking because stopping drinking, if anything, just brought to light the depth of the problem that I was
Oh,
facing.
hmm.
All of the pain that I had been experiencing, that I no longer had alcohol to use to cope. And I developed other coping mechanisms that were unhealthy. And there are two that come to mind. The first is I developed an unhealthy relationship to my body in general, body image. And this manifested through an unhealthy relationship to food, an unhealthy relationship to exercise. And anything that I could do to get a little control in a world where I felt so out of control was something that I used to soothe myself, whether it be restrictive eating and then patterns of binge eating, whether it be excessive exercise, really regimented routines, anything to feel like I had some control. And
Yeah.
why did I need so much control? I needed so much control because I grew up in a household where I felt totally out of control and unsafe. And I didn't have that parental system in my life to give me that security and safety. So I turned outside and said, how can I just get some grasp? And I realized that while I was definitely suffering from a mental health struggle with my anxiety, I was also experiencing a spiritual dilemma. I didn't have anything greater than me that I could trust. And I was introduced to a therapist who introduced me to the practice of mindful self-compassion. It's a combination of meditation, mindfulness meditation, and self-compassion, which is the work of just being kinder to yourself. And it was transformative, bro. Like I'm looking at the book, bro. I can
Yeah,
plug
put
it
me
if
on.
you want. But like
Sure.
it's the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook by Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer. They created this project. Kristen Neff is a academic researcher at University of Texas. Christopher Germer is a clinical psychologist and researcher as well. And this program is all about how to be kinder to yourself. And when I got introduced to that practice, bro, it completely shattered me. It completely broke me in the best way because I realized the deficit that I had was self love. I was completely devoid of self love and worth. And that made sense from the abandonment that I had experienced growing up. Abandoning emotionally, but also abandoning physically. And that just took the self love out of me. And this practice, when done alongside professional, a therapist, helped me reclaim some of that self love. But that self love practice and that self compassion practice brought into just a meditation practice more broadly. And that meditation practice allowed me to stay with exactly what was here. Because when I got caught in the pattern of feeling out of control, my mind went into the storytelling. It went into all the stuff that's not actually happening. And it kept me in this place of fear. And it kept me in this place of feeling in danger. I was recreating the danger that I felt as a child, even though I wasn't in danger. And these practices allowed me to just stay present with exactly what was here. And they were transformative. And then eventually, thank God, that would take me to 12-step recovery, which would add another element to my recovery process that was foundational. And so all of this had come together, and I was practicing all of these things. And I went on a week-long meditation retreat at the Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts, where I try to spend at least 1 week out of the year. And there was a teacher giving a talk about how when she was a teenager, she was meditating and she was listening to one of her teachers speak about essentially what's the impact that you want to make with your life? Like, what do you want to do? And her
Yeah.
immediate thought was, I want to go to Burma and learn to be a meditation teacher. And she was telling this story, and I was listening, and I had two things come up immediately. And one of them was, I have to organize. I have to organize in my community. I think that I can do this work. And so I took that back to Baltimore, and I was at a wedding gathering, a pre-wedding gathering for a friend. and they were doing a meditation. Go figure. That's the kind of friends I got. We meditate everywhere. We
Hell
go,
yeah,
we get
bro.
married, we meditate. We go, that's what we do.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. And I'm meditating, and there's a sound bath going on. And honestly, I think I told you this, but honestly, the entire idea of When Men Are Silent was like handed to me in a bundle. Not the name, not the details, but it was just this very intuitive. I think you need to organize a men's mental health meditation gathering. I think that's what you need to do. And so I started playing around. I was like, that's the thing, bro. When I get intuition these days, I just listen
Yeah.
because I trust myself. I trust the work that I've put in to get to a place where I can trust my brain's first thought. Because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to take my inventory and ask myself, did I do the right thing or did I do the wrong thing? And if I did the wrong thing, I'm going to do right by it. So when I get that intuition, I have the privilege of trusting it. It's a beautiful process. I'm so grateful for that. And I got this handed down to me. I'm like, okay, all right, I guess I'm gonna do it. So
Right.
I went home and I immediately got on Canva and I was just like, that's not true. I got on ChatGPT. Don't tell anybody. I got on ChatGPT and just started. I was just like, I just cooked for like 2 nights, just like, like, what's the name? What's the format? What's the bio? What's the everything? And we were going. It's so funny the way we talk about AI. I was on
I know, right?
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
We like it's my friend. We were just we were just going through ideas for names, just cycling through all these names. And it's like when men are silent, that caught me. It's like, oh, when men are silent. And it just captured what I wanted to do with the project. And that was to use meditation as a demonstration, to use silence as a demonstration in a loud world to bring attention to the challenges that men face with their mental health for the sake of community healing. Meditation is in silence, and it's also a practice of bringing your awareness towards something, an anchor, a thought, an emotion, a felt sense, a feeling tone, or a systemic issue.
Yeah.
And that's some of the disproportionate ways that men are impacted or that any group's impacted by mental health challenges. And so I was like, I think this could work if done right. And so I started building out these cornerstones for the project. And that's the first kind of cornerstone that started today. And that's the WMAS community meditation gatherings. And those are silent public meditation gatherings to bring people together, men, but all beings, for the sake of men's mental health awareness. And what's important for me to emphasize is that whether it be the community meditation gatherings or any event that we do, they're all freely offered. Because if we're really going to be about the community, they need to be freely offered. Because
Yeah.
we have a significant proportion of our city that can't afford to go to a yoga studio. They can't afford to go on a meditation retreat. We have to meet them where they are. We need to go to West Baltimore with a free offering and say, this is what we're doing. We can't expect it all to be in Fells Point or the Inner Harbor. We have to go meet people where they are. And if one of us is not the right person to do it, then we need to build our community outward in a way that we can get buy-in from people that are the right people to support the mission and to do it in the way that best fits that neighborhood with kind of the foundation and the mission and statement in place. So that's the cornerstone. That's how it was built. And we're building out some other programs slowly to evolve it. And so the community meditation gatherings were designed to be open to the community in general, whether you're identify as a man or not. We just launched today. This so excited, bro. We just launched today.
It should be, bro.
It's just I have to shout out the city of Baltimore. I have to because I have never felt more at home somewhere than in Baltimore.
That's huge. That's huge.
And
Yeah.
the way this city organizes and comes together is inspiring. And I just want to give that back to my community as well. And so while the community meditation gatherings are a big part of it, the second program that we're introducing is the WMAS Men's Circle. So this is a collective where men can come together to meditate, but to share openly about their experiences in a safe space where there's no cross talking, there's no commenting on the shares, and it's timed. Whatever that young man or man needs to share in that moment is on the table, with the understanding that unless you want somebody to comment on it, you're good. You just share it. You just get it out. And if you want to grab one of us afterwards and you would like to talk about it with somebody, come see us. But the assumption is this is just your space. Talk. And it's hard enough to talk to a family member who's going to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't feel that way. It's already hard enough. So we just want to provide the space for you to talk. And that's the ground rule. And then we get together afterwards for fellowship. So we are working with one of our strongest community partners, the Sedona House, which is a mindfulness and well-being studio in Baltimore, in Fells Point.
Mm-hmm.
They're offering the space freely so that we can do this work. And that Amanda and the Sedona House team are offering that space freely means a lot to me, because they recognize that this work needs to be freely available, and that they're making that buy-in to that mission means the world to me. And I've been practicing there for years now, and I know it's a safe space for men to be. The challenge is that men represent a very small percentage of the membership base. If the membership base is 4,000 members, men might be 100 of them.
Oh, wow.
And my goal is that in having the collective there, men can get introduced to another resource to support their mental health. Why not? Maybe they go to a class, maybe they go to a meditation, maybe they go to a sound bath, or do workshops, retreats, things like that. So the idea, though, is that this is a space for men. So we have the space in the community for men's mental health, and then we have the space in a private space for men to share openly. And we have lots of other ideas. And I have to say that I can't go at this work alone. This truly is the work of the community in Baltimore. And if I had to say two things about that, the first one would be community partnerships are paramount to this being a successful project. In other words, to do something freely available and sustaining is challenging. But to identify the community partners that are buying in to that, and we have several, many actually, that just want to help the mission for its own sake, is inspiring in its own right. They recognize the value of men's mental health and community healing, and they say, come use our space. Come, let me give you flowers. Let me give you mental health brochures. Let me bring coffee. Whatever. It means the world, because it means that our community in Baltimore, they recognize the challenges that men face around their mental health, and they want to use their platform to support it, and that's powerful. And so just entirely grateful for that. But I would say the running right alongside that is the community making that investment, and for us to work together to introduce new programs for the community. I need the community. So I might have envisioned this, but it's already time for me to give it away, bro. We've had this conversation where my goal is that when you think WMAS, you don't even think Dennis. You just think the community. And I don't want WMS to be my brand. I don't want to sell merch. That's not what this project is. Those projects are great. And the people that are doing those projects deserve to succeed because they're most likely putting out work that's really valuable. But this project, I want it to be so ingrained in the community that you don't even know who started it. You don't even know who started it. And the community partners buying in and being open to hosting events and provide literature and resources and things like that, I think that's the step that we take to fully blend it into the community. And so that's my ultimate goal of the project is that I don't even got to do any work on it anymore. It's just there.
Yeah.
I too just get to be part of the community and it's just self-sustaining. But we got a ways to go, bro. We got a lot to do. But I'm inspired by every person that shows up. Every person that follows gets a message. It's just a quick one. Hey, I appreciate that you care about this. And that's important to me. So what else can I say, bro? I mean, you get me going about the project. I'll talk for talk for
Nah,
hours.
that's huge, bro. I mean, dude, I'm your biggest cheerleader, bro. And like I said before, like I
It's
really
love.
love, yeah, I really love what you
It's
got going
love.
on, man. I will support in any way that I can, man. And like we discussed, like previously, like last week, bro, I will come to Baltimore, man, and we can. I'm definitely trying to see what it's
Hey,
about.
hey,
For sure.
we would love to have you. We really
Yeah,
would. We really would. I'm in the guest room right now, bro.
oh yeah.
You stay here. Look, there's a cushion where you meditate. It'd be your own meditation retreat, you
Say,
know?
look, we could do it,
And
man.
if you ever want to come out and experience the city of Baltimore, I would love to I would love for you to do that, bro, because I already I gotta get sentimental for a minute, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
bro.
gotta get sentimental because that you care about the project means the world to me. Because prior to this conversation and the conversation we had before, we didn't know each other. We just shared a language, and that language was men speaking out about what's going on with them. And your work embodies what we're trying to accomplish. And you're an inspiration for the work, bro. Like, you're creating content that creates ideas for how we can put it on the ground in Baltimore and impact other men. That's amazing. That is amazing. And every time I open a video and it's the morning and you're at the steering wheel and you're saying something that gives me life, it keeps me doing this work. And in that way, it pays it forward, bro. Like, you keep me motivated so we can keep Baltimore motivated. And it's powerful. And in that way, I consider us to be family. I consider us to be brothers. Like, we're doing this work together. And that's the essence. It's like, I want everybody who wants to be a partner to be a partner. Don't come be part of my project. Let's build it together.
Yeah,
That's what I'm all about, you know?
hell yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, man, I hate to cut it short, bro, because I did not think this through because my camera is literally about to die. But
Mm,
yeah,
man.
nah, man, dude, we're definitely gonna run it back, bro. But if there's anything you want to
Let's
plug,
do it.
bro, like if there's anything you want to shout out, anything you want to say, any closing remarks, bro. Yeah, man, floor is yours, bro.
Man, what can I even say? Let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody when I pull up Instagram.
Yeah,
All right. So the first shout out is easy. At unhinged sanity underscore on Instagram. Easy. Easy.
love.
If you are looking for mental health and sobriety resources, support, and a community, unhinged sanity underscore. Go follow. You're going to be 10K point one, but one day somebody's going to be 100K point one. So get in early. So that's the first one.
Yeah.
The second one is at When Men Are Silent on Instagram. So if you want to follow me personally, I'm Dennis.Schaller on Instagram. And I founded WMAS, When Men Are Silent. That's at When Men Are Silent on Instagram, all one word. What we're posting on When Men Are Silent are updates about community events going on in the city of Baltimore. And so we organize community meditation gatherings and supportive programs for men's mental health and community healing. And if you want to keep up with the work we're doing, it's at When Men Are Silent on Instagram. There you can find links to resources that our community partners are doing. You can find statistics on men's mental health, and you can find any flyers for events that we have upcoming in the city of Baltimore. I think that's all, bro. I think that's all I'll plug. But I had, the first plug was obligatory. I had to. I
Hey,
had
I
to.
appreciate it,
Showing
man.
love,
Man.
showing love always comes first.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, I really appreciate you
Always
coming
comes
on, man, and
first.
making some time, bro. This is huge, man.
Yeah, of
We're
course.
definitely gonna run it back. You know what I'm saying?
I
Definitely.
want to. I want to.
Yeah.
We gotta get some topics to dig
Oh,
into,
for sure,
you
bro.
know?
For sure,
We
bro.
didn't even talk about, we gotta talk about sobriety. We gotta talk about all of it, you know?
Nah, yeah. The bag is full, man. We just gotta pull something out and just keep it going, you know? So
It's
hey.
true. It's true.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
But yeah, man. Hey, thank you everybody for watching. This is the Sober and Unbothered podcast with When Men Are Silent. Dennis, thank you, bro. Thank you, brother, for coming on, man. I really appreciate you, bro. That's
I
love.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.